Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Nor his man's servant, nor his maid's servant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything thy neighbor.
The Almighty adds blessings to these words, and to his name be the praise and glory. We shall now chant the morning psalm.
Hear, O Lord, and have mercy upon me. Lord, be thou my help. Lord, be thou my help. Thou hast turned my heaviness into joy. Thou hast put off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness. Therefore shall every good man sing thy praise without ceasing. Glory be to the Father, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, now and ever, world without end.
Let us pray. The peace that passeth all understanding is the life of the Spirit in man. And if we have to make our bodies as a living sacrifice, we have to understand ourselves. If I did not know the powers of the subconscious mind, by perfection and training year in and year out, and I did all my wonderful paintings and sculpture by just closing my eyes and meditate, and I see all these things and the movements and the colors and so on, and sometimes different revelations and inspiration came upon me. Then if we should turn ourselves within these inner kingdoms of our beings, we too can achieve. And that is my testimony to show the foundation of the faith. I took to the faith around 1940. Spiritually, I was baptized part 1, and it is how much? 1995. So many years now.
You know that Africans are very spiritual. We live in a situation where we find that the dead, the living, and the unborn are all part of the same continuum. And I find that in his art, in the art of Philip Moore, there is always the presence of this continuum, the living, being in touch with these ancestors in form of spiritual elements that you find in the art, and also the living in touch with the unborn. So I find that the essence of his painting and sculpture is what you call, rightly described as atavistic, because those who are not aware of the existence of that dimension in life, they can't understand it. But this is not a strange thing to an African.
To get the image of African art, we have to think about such a wide spectrum of different mediums, different idioms. That classical art of Ife, which is the mother of all the arts of the Yoruba. And then you get the court art of Benin. And then you get also the art of the temples, the shrines. That art is strictly religious. Now when you talk about meaning in Ife is different from meaning in Benin. But meaning in the shrine is what really is universal about African art. Most African cultures, most African sculptures derive from a belief in man's relationship to the earth worship, or man's relationship to time, ancestor worship. Philip Moore himself has never been to an African country, has no direct relation to the art of Africa. I do not think that Philip Moore would have had any actual experience of African sculpture on this soil. He has not consciously gone to African forms to try to replicate them. He would have seen objects of art, of African art, in the museums of the United States. But from the point of view of a functional relationship, understanding the sources of that art and the direct relationship with the sources of that art in any country of Africa, Philip Moore himself has never been to an African country. When the Africans were brought out to the Caribbean, that art immediately became antique to them, insofar as it could not travel. All of those forms of art were linked to specific beliefs, specific localities. There is the place where Shango came to earth. There is the place where Chopin is worshipped. And the sanctions for that worship are buried in that earth. That's the reason for the location of the shrine in a given place, because the sanctions for that particular worship is buried in that place, and the sculpture is regarded as the forehead of the spirit. African art, at the time it came into contact with the Caribbean in the 16th century, was a very mature art, extremely old art. It was already very old art, which had very clear meanings for specific forms. And in the Caribbean, we were mixed together from different places in Africa, not understanding each other. So that for those forms to have persisted in the Caribbean would have been impossible. They did not persist. So therefore, for a person like Philip Moore growing up in this context, obviously the heritage survives in persons like Philip Moore or in persons like Bob Marley. The heritage survives. That is a falling back on primordial forms. A lot of the sacred beliefs did survive. Though you had Shango dancing and all this kind of thing, I do not think there was any equivalent in sculpture, because the people would have forgotten those forms. But technologically, something survives. When Philip Moore begins to carve, in very many ways he is, by virtue of his heritage, he is continuing the technological language of his ancestors, not the iconological language, since he has lost that. So to that degree, Philip Moore is a Caribbean adaptation of a great tradition. To me, I do not know of anything that is truer to the Caribbean than that kind of juju vision in those two large paintings, Chumbi Wedding and King Flora.
I grew up in the country and we had acres of land. Where we plant farm, we get coconut farm and we plant rice, and I accepted my body. This body is the temple of the living God. What I am trying to do is to use some of my art, painting and sculpture and music to see if we cannot develop a kind of new psychic understanding to help heal our ills and our wounds. But we in the Caribbean, we just cannot stand or create any kind of fusion except we bring in that total ancient order and understanding of the people who inhabit these lands before Columbus came. And I, Philip Moore, the God man, said that we have to blend these spiritual virtues together before we can get peace in the world. There are thousands of people coming up with this kind of spirit. Not I alone, trying to bring about this new state of consciousness to mankind. It's a universal pledge that the Creator made with the man, and a universal covenant that God has made with the world.
The dominant thing, the dominant reality for Philip Moore is the potency of spirit.
Some of us explore it, others let it go, and others ignore it. But in terms of appreciation, I think a lot of learning has to take place. We have schools, we have universities, we don't study anything directly affecting our culture. We don't, I think what we have at the moment is only cosmetic. We're not going in, there is not enough money for research to go deeply into finding out what these cultures represent, the African culture, the Indian culture, and so on, in terms of religion and religious beliefs, in terms of the way of life, the spirit that moves every day-to-day behavior. If we are going to appreciate this art, we have to do some more learning. There is a great deal that we have in common, all these cultures that contribute, that make up the Guyanese identity. I think any young Guyanese coming to look at this artwork will learn a lot. It will begin to explain to them who they are, that they didn't drop from the sky, that they have a long tradition behind them, and they belong to a people. As we teach more art in the schools, I think this fusion will come about. Each one of us has to develop what we have. I'm sure you are aware of something called throwing box. If you do not contribute to the box, you can't collect.
Philip Moore's career over the past 50 years or thereabouts, though meeting with some Afrophobic suspicion and misunderstanding, is without question a major contribution to the fostering of a national identity. As the acknowledged granddaddy of the art of the village movement, his efforts, at variance with the Eurocentric art trends popular among his contemporaries, has made it possible for younger artists today, irrespective of their ethnicity, to find acceptance for an art more interconnected with their own heritage and experience. While largely ignored by practically all of the learning institutions right here in Guyana, Philip Moore, without the benefit of a formal art education, came from the obscurity of the quarantine to exhibit and lecture at the galleries and universities of several major American cities. Having resisted documented overtures by foreign museums to purchase his art, Philip, persistent in his encounters with the mysterious imagery springing from the magical world of his subconscious, journeys on his explorations of the pure potentiality of African-inspired polemics, transforming the known miraculously and enriching all who encounter it. The principal aspect of Philip's work is not its technical innovation. This work is evolving from the private spiritual experience of the artist and has its value and effect spiritually and psychologically.
That's Philip's work. That is what Philip expects his work to do, whether they are carved or painted. They are truly magical, and that is the sense of potency of spirit.
A review of his work from 1956 to the present shows this unchanging direction.
That business of innovation and change, no. The spirit of innovation is not an important aspect of African art, like it is in Western art. Our European mode of thinking demands this phenomenon of change and evolution. That is our European concept, that things must evolve, things must change. But I think that it is not a concern of Philip Moore's.
He is concerned with life everlasting, with imaging miraculous visions of deep experience transcending the empirical. Dismissing from the inception of his career the rapid internationalization of new European forms that followed the end of the Second World War, a trend aided locally to some extent by the success of Denis Williams, then in the heart of the international artwork, Philip favored instead his own inner vision, a persistence that has won him recognition, unofficially at least, and for too long so, as Guyana's national artist and the most outstanding Caribbean artist, to offer a most magical apprehension of the world all of us in the region can relate to.
Whatever we think of ourselves, the brands, the labels, we still remain man, ancient soul in a modern body. We are ever learning, ever evolving, ever achieving. The symphony of life is always incomplete and unfinished. And only through tolerance can we put ourselves in the shoes of others and feel what they feel. I thank Jehovah for his many blessings at this point in time to be what I am. His spirit birthed in an African body to the country of Guyana and the universe. It's mostly through dreams that I was educated and reinforced to be an artist for over 50 years. A lifetime of work and an eternity of experience.
can tell you what queen